Good morning, respected teachers, seniors, and my fellow colleagues. I'm here to present a very interesting case of a 12-year-old girl with pain in abdomen, seizures, and quadriparesis. 12-year-old female, resident of Agra, Hindu by religion, born via non-consanguineous marriage, informant, grandmother, and uncle. Her chief complaints were pain in abdomen since 2.5 months, convulsions since 2.5 months, weakness in all 4 limbs since 1.5 months. Pain in abdomen was sudden in onset, non-localized, dull aching with multiple episodes, associated with constipation, relieved with medication. There was no aggravating factor, there was no abdominal distension, no associated with vomiting. Convulsion since 2.5 months. First episode was generalized, tonic-clonic, lasting for 2 to 3 minutes, with uprolling of eyes, frothing from mouth, clenching of teeth, and urinary incontinence. There was no postictal confusion or loss of consciousness. It was self-aborted with no precipitating factor was found. Second episode was after 1 month, had a similar episode of generalized tonic-clonic seizure with uprolling of eyes, frothing from mouth, and clenching of teeth. She got admitted in private hospital in Agra. There was weakness in lower limb post-seizure episode. She was able to walk with support during hospital stay and after discharge. During hospital stay, on evaluation, patient found to be hypertensive, for which was started on verapamil and anti-epileptic phenytoin was started. After 2 months of second episode, patient got admitted in private hospital as patient had weakness in lower limb. On day 2 of admission, patient had similar episode of seizure with uprolling of eyes, frothing from mouth, clenching of teeth, with soiling of clothes, followed by worsening of weakness in lower limbs with new onset of weakness of upper limb. During hospital stay, patient was hypertensive. On followed investigation, there was electrolyte disbalance. Rest of all investigations were normal. MRI brain and NCV was normal. There was weakness in all 4 limbs, which was acute in onset, gradually progressive, started in lower limb 1.5 months back, followed by weakness of upper limb since 1 month. There was no urinary or fecal incontinence. Her activities of daily living was affected as she was not able to feed on her own, not able to go to toilet, and not able to turn on bed. Associated with pain in all 4 limbs, aggravated on passive movement, relieved on medication. Negative history was asked for fever, rash, dysphagia, trauma, loose stool, weight loss, and pica. There was no history of recent vaccination, diplopia, ptosis, neck swelling, nasal regurgitation, behavioral abnormalities, hematuria, polyuria, burning, micturition. She has a similar history in past with abdominal pain and 1 episode of seizure. She got admitted in private hospital. During hospitalization, investigations were done which was suggestive of electrolyte disbalance, USG whole abdomen suggestive of GB sludge. Complete resolution of symptoms was there as no residual deficit was found. Family history, there was no similar complaint in family and was no history of consanguinity. Birth history was normal. Development history, born via cesarean section in private hospital, full term, appropriate for gestational age, birth weight was 2.5 kg, cried immediately after birth, was breastfed within 1 hour of birth, no hospital stay and no history of neonatal jaundice was there. Developmental history, all developmental milestone was achieved as per as age, currently studying in 7th standard with good scholastic performance. BCG scar was present, completely immunized as per as guardians. To summarize, we have a 12-year-old female with multiple episodes of pain in abdomen, 3 episodes of seizure with 2.5 months of history, progressive weakness since 1.5 months, electrolyte disbalance, and hypertension. What could be the possible diagnosis? Possibilities was kept for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyradiculoneuropathy, systemic lupus erythematosus, porphyria, periodic paralysis, and chronic lead poisoning.
Now, if you go back to your negative history, you need to explain why you asked the negative history of so many symptoms.
Yes, sir.
So everybody, especially the medicine and pediatrics residents, have to know that if you have such a history and what is the differential diagnosis in your mind, and how do you rule out various possibilities by asking this negative?
So neck swelling and nasal regurgitation was asked to rule out diphtheria, as diphtheria also causes the polyneuropathy. Fever was asked to rule out any infectious causes. Pica history was taken to rule out the lead poisoning. Sir, polyuria, hematuria, and burning micturition to rule out any renal involvement.
Did you ask for color of urine after keeping for 3-4 hours?
Sir,
color of urine?
The color of urine was asked from the parents, but they did not
No,
notice
not just after passing, after keeping
No,
it.
sir, not.
Did you keep it here?
Yes, sir,
and
we
saw
did.
the color of
Yes,
the
sir,
urine?
we did. I will be showing that, sir, we did keep
Okay.
it. Possibilities were kept. Points in favor of CIDP was weakness was acute in onset, it was progressive in all 4 limbs, hypertension and tachycardia. Point in against was patient had pain in abdomen, electrolyte disbalance and seizures. In SLE, points in favor was she was a female patient, multisystem involvement, seizures, weakness, hypertension and electrolyte disbalance. There was absence. Points in against was there was absent dermatological manifestation, neuropsychiatric manifestation, no kidney involvement was there and no joint pain was there. Points in favor of periodical paralysis was weakness was acute in onset with hypokalemia. Point against was there was no family history, seizures, hypertension, pain in abdomen, and usually the weakness recovered after correction of electrolyte disbalance. Points in favor for porphyria was pain in abdomen, weakness, seizure, hypertension, tachycardia and electrolyte abnormalities. Points against in porphyria was there was no family history, no community and ethnic association, no behavioral or psychiatric symptoms. Chronic lead toxicity. Points in favor was there was weakness in limb, hypertension, pain in abdomen, seizures, electrolyte disturbance, absence of history of exposure and no history of pica was there. In anthropometry, patient was of 145 cm in height and 30 kg at weight. Pulse rate was 146 beats per minute, good volume, normal rhythm, character was normal with no radiofemoral delay. Respiratory rate was 18 breaths per minute. BP was 138/96 mmHg, which was above 90th centile for height and gender and was on medication verapamil. Saturation was normal, temperature was afebrile and peripheral pulse well felt. General physical examination was normal. Head to toe examination was normal. This is our patient at the time of admission. Photo was clicked after prior permission from guardian. Now, I would like to call Dr. Naveena to take case further with systemic examination of the patient.
Good morning, respected teachers, my dear seniors and colleagues. I would like to carry forward the case with the systemic examination of the patient. So we examined higher mental functions. Our patient was conscious, oriented to time, place and person. Her attention span and memory were normal. Appearance and behavior, her mood and emotional state, speech, she was able to talk in complete sentences. The cranial nerve examination was done and it was found to be normal. Motor system examination. In motor system, we found out that the bulk of muscle was flabby. There was loss of muscle convexity in both upper and both lower limbs. There were no fasciculations, no contracture, no tenderness was found, and tone was hypotonic. So it's coming in next slide. Power. In upper limb, the power was 0/5. In lower limb, the power was 0/5. In neck muscles, the extensor and flexor power was found to be 3/5. In trunk examination, the patient was able to sit with support. Respiratory muscles were spared, they were normally acting. Superficial reflexes were found to be present. but the deep tendon reflexes were absent in her case. Sensory system examination was found to be normal. In autonomic nervous system, there were some disturbances noted. A patient had hypertension. BP was in the range of 138/96 mmHg. She was having tachycardia persistently with a heart rate of 142 beats per minute. The excessive sweating was absent there, and postural hypertension could not be elicitated since a patient was not able to stand. There were no signs of meningeal irritation. The cranium and spine were normal. There were no palpable peripheral nerves. In the rest systemic examinations, they were reported normal. So at the time of admission, this was the state of patient.
क्या नाम है आपका? कौन सी क्लास में पढ़ते हो? हाथ उठाने की कोशिश करो बेटा, एक बार हाथ उठाने की कोशिश करो, थोड़ा ट्राई करो जितना हो सके. ठीक.
So to summarize, after the history and examination, we have a 12-year-old female with multiple episodes of abdominal pain since 1 year, multiple episodes of seizures since 2.5 months, and progressive weakness since 1.5 months. On examination, we found that the patient had hypotonia, loss of power, low motor neuron type weakness, hypertension and tachycardia, and absent deep tendon reflexes in all 4 limbs. Truncal and respiratory muscles were spared. What could be the possible diagnosis?
Go back to your previous slide.
Yes, sir. So the symptom points in favor of porphyria were the pain abdomen was of intermittent nature, there was weakness of limbs involved, the patient had seizures, hypertension, electrolyte abnormality, there was documented hypertension, no chronic renal manifestations were there. The points which goes against were proximal type of weakness at onset and behavior abnormalities, since our patient had no behavior abnormalities. In CIDP, that is chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyradicular neuropathy, there is acute onset of weakness in limbs. The progressive involvement of all 4 limbs is there. Hypertension and tachycardia are there. The points against CIDP are pain abdomen and occurrence of seizure. In SLE, that is systemic lupus erythematosus, there is a female patient with multisystem involvement. The pain in abdomen is there, hypertension and electrolyte disbalance are there. But the points in against are weakness of all 4 limbs, absence of dermatological manifestations since there were no cutaneous rashes or anything in our patient. There was no neuropsychiatric manifestation, no kidney involvement, and no joint pain was found. In chronic lead toxicity, we find that there is weakness of limbs, hypertension, pain abdomen, electrolyte disturbance, and seizures. But the points in against are absence of history of exposure since we found from the history. There were no gum skin findings, there was no anemia, and peripheral blood film was normal. Now, I would like to discuss investigations. I would like to call upon Dr. Isha for the investigations.
Patient was admitted for more than 2.5 months over various hospitals. So we are presenting outside and investigation done in-house. All the blood investigations were coming in the normal range except the serum electrolyte, in which the sodium was coming persistently low with serum potassium between normal to decreased range. Chloride was in normal range. Serum magnesium was also in lower ranges. Blood urea, creatinine, CRP, ESR was in normal. Outside NCCT brain was of normal study. Renal Doppler, USG KUB, whole abdomen 2D echo was done, which was showing of normal study. MRI brain with contrast in MGM and NCV was done. MRI brain was of normal study and NCV suggestive of sensory motor axonal polyneuropathy in all 4 limbs with lower motor involvement more than upper. PBF was done suggestive of normocytic normochromic. Fundus examination was normal. Lumbar puncture was done suggestive of protein 57, sugars were 80, cell count was less than 5, which was of lymphocytic picture. ANA was done suggestive of negative finding. So the differentials were kept now, were cancelled. As the CSF was normal, CIDP was ruled out. SLE was ruled out as it was not meeting the clinical criteria. Lead toxicity was ruled out as the PBF was normal, no gum or skin involvement was there, and no behavioral changes were seen. For porphyria, we did a bedside investigation in which the change of urine color was noticed and it changed to red-brown. To further emphasize on our investigation, we did a 24-hour urine porphyro...
Can this happen in any other disease?
Yes, sir. The change of color. Yes, sir.
Which?
Sir,
If it, I don't know, I'm asking, I have the prerogative to ask even what I don't know. But if it cannot change in any other disease, that is what Dr. Swankar has been saying from very beginning. A very simple bedside test will confirm your diagnosis.
PNH it is also diagnosed. PNH also.
Porphyria का मतलब क्या है डॉक्टर साहब? डॉक्टर साहब, what is the meaning of porphyria? What is the word meaning of porphyria?
Sir, it is a group of disorder in which there is meaning. There is a
आपका नाम क्या है?
Dr. Shivani.
शिवानी का मतलब क्या होता है?
Sir,
शिवानी?
Sir, it is a precursor of
Porphyria means purple.
purple. Sir, purple.
Latin word comes from porphyra. Porphyra is a red fluorescency. It is a Latin word. It is a Latin word.
एक मैपल सिरप डिजीज भी होती है, यूरिन कलर कैसा होता है इसमें? किसी कंट्री का फ्लैग है मैपल से?
कनाडा, मैपल लीफ
है।
कनाडा।
सिरप कहीं जाते हो रेस्टोरेंट में डालते हैं मैपल सिरप है?
यस सर।
कैसी स्मेल होती है?
स्वीट।
चलो, I have treated patient, done IVF on few occasions of a patient with maple cirrhosis.
ये कॉमन चीजें आनी चाहिए.
Yes sir.
Yeah, but unfortunately, this is happening frequently in clinical practice also. There is a patient who has a palpable left supraclavicular node, which is large and hard, but yet the patient undergoes a PET scan. I mean, if there is a large supraclavicular node in a patient with intra-abdominal or testicular malignancy, what is required is just a fine needle aspiration cytology from that node, and it is a distant metastasis. In most cases, a PET scan probably would not be required. So let us not get diverted by these modern sophisticated investigations. Clinical examination, bedside evaluation is still important.
So diagnosis of porphyria was kept after seeing the clinical history, examination, investigation. Now I would like Dr. Shivani from the Department of Biochem to discuss further about porphyria.
Thank you, Dr. Isha. Good morning, my faculties, my teachers, and my colleague fellows. I, Dr. Shivani Shikla, first year PG resident, covering the biochemical aspect of this case under guidance of Dr. Bushra Faiza ma'am, Professor Biochemistry. Detailed history examination and lab findings has been taught by the Ishas and Dr. Naveena ma'am. Before going to the further treatment part and the diagnosis, first we know about the little bit about normal heme structures and biosynthesis of heme. Okay, this is the normal structure of heme, in which there is 4 pyrrole rings attached in this. These pyrrole rings have 8 substitution position. If there is any substitution in this position, leads to different kind of porphyrias. And these pyrrole rings attach with the methylene and methionine bridge. If there is attachment with the methylene bridge, there is a formation of porphyrinogen rings. If there is an attachment with the methionine bridge with double bond, this forms the porphyrin rings. Okay. This is the normal biosynthesis of heme. Occurs in 2 steps. First in mitochondria and rest are occur in the cytoplasm. Why?
ऐसा किस ऑर्गन की बीमारी है ये? किस ऑर्गन की बीमारी है ये? Which organ is affected?
Sir, liver.
हैं? कहाँ पे होता है सारा कुछ जो आप बता रहे हो?
Sir,
स्प्लीन में, लीवर में, किडनी में, कहाँ पे होता है? हैं?
RBC.
कहाँ पे बेटा? हीम कहाँ पे प्रोड्यूस होता है?
Bone marrow, sir.
No, it is liver.
Liver, हाँ, liver.
This is the disease of liver disorder. You might have to go and consult Dr. Nemish. Finally, if you are unable to treat for liver transplant.
Yes, one
No?
is a
Yes.
hepatic in origin. Must remember that.
In mitochondria, only one step happens. What happens in this? There is a condensation of glycine and succinyl coenzyme A. Why there is a succinyl coenzyme A? Formation of delta aminolevulinic acid. Why this happens only in mitochondria? Because there is vitamin B6, that is pyridoxical phosphatase, only present in mitochondria, then further goes into the cytoplasm, and this forms the phosphoglycogen with the help of enzyme PBG deaminase, and so on. Series of heme synthesis happens. Depending upon the enzyme, we have different kind of porphyrias. As in our case, patient have depending upon the lab report, patient having raised level of ALA and PBG, which was 50 times higher than the normal, done by the method of high pressure liquid chromatography, that suggested the acute intermediate porphyria. In this slide, we have raised level of ALA, PBG increase, history of abdominal pain and neuropsychiatric symptoms suggestive of acute intermediate porphyria. Now I call upon Dr. Navina for enlighten the treatment path.
Thank you, Dr. Shivani. I would like to continue with the treatment of a case. So the patient was started on IV fluids dextrose infusion at 100% maintenance rate. Since she was having electrolyte disimbalance of hyponatremia, hypokalemia, they were corrected with IV fluids. Injection Hamin was given.
Available है अपनी country में?
No sir, it's not available. We get it procured from outside.
क्या cost है? मैं यहाँ की hospital की बात नहीं कर, country में है available?
Sir, available है sir.
नहीं, मुझे पता है. क्या cost है इसकी?
The cost is around 2.5 lakhs for 4 vials. It comes.
This is what I want to emphasize. It's very costly drug.
It's very costly drug, sir. It's an orphan drug.
Okay.
So injection Hamin was given.
Not readily available. That is all right, but now it is available. But it's very
now
costly.
It's available, but it's very costly, sir.
हाँ. जहाँ भी costly drugs हों या rarely available हों, difficult available हों, उसको mention जरूर करो bracket में. या जिस बाकी जो practice करने वाले लोग हैं वो भी इस चीज को जान सकें.
Take it from next time, sir. The antihypertensives were given. Losartan and metoprolol managed the hypertension. A patient was continued on levetiracetam for anti-epileptics. Gabapentin was given for peripheral neuropathy and myalgia. Patient was on verapamil and amlodipine and phenytoin earlier, so they were stopped because these are the drugs which trigger and increase the porphyria. The targeted treatment for porphyria is, in acute attacks, usually hospitalization is needed. We can manage the patient by symptomatic treatment usually. The main treatment is IV dextrose. 3 to 4 mg dextrose per kg per day is the dose used. But the standard therapy is panhematin or Hamin. It's the most effective and only FDA approved treatment, more commonly available in US, Europe and South Africa. Hamin is an iron containing porphyrin with chlorine. It is made from RBCs processed from the human blood. Hamin binds to hemopexin and albumin in the plasma in hepatocytes. In hepatocytes, it represses the synthesis of enzyme hepatic delta ALA synthase 1, and this in further reduces the porphyrin precursor overproduction. It comes in IV formulation. The dose is 3 to 5 mg per kg per day for 4 days. The indications to use Hamin, since it's a costly drug, indications to use are in case of severe attack and in cases where the disease is not resolved by symptomatic treatment. We can also give emphasis on diet, since carbohydrates suppress the enzyme hepatic ALA synthase 1 and reduce the porphyrin precursor excretion. We suggested a patient that a well-balanced diet rich in carbohydrates and salt should be advised. There should be no hypoglycemia. The patient should have regular meals and should avoid longer periods of fasting, as hypoglycemia triggers the attacks of porphyria. These are the triggering factors which commonly induce the porphyria attack. drugs, menarche, smoking, alcohol, fasting, dehydration, stress and infections. Here is a list of drugs which are unsafe and safe in case of porphyria. Sorry, sir. Prognosis of porphyria. The prognosis is good provided early diagnosis and treatment. Acute symptoms usually resolve, but muscle damage and neurological damage take 6 to 12 months to recover. Genetic counseling should be done in case if morbidity in the family because of similar symptoms. The parent should be well counseled regarding drugs to be avoided in these patients. So this is the current situation. As we all know, acute intermittent porphyria is an autosomal dominant disorder of heme biosynthesis. It rarely presents in childhood. The combined prevalence of acute porphyrias is approximately 5 cases per 1 lakh persons.
ये कराया था आपने? Did you get this test done?
Sorry, sir.
Genetic analysis कराई थी?
Genetic test has been sent, sir. Reports awaited.
Report
is awaited, sir. It has been sent.
So you are saying it's an autosomal dominant disorder, but
Yes,
you
sir.
said there is no family history. How do you explain that?
Because, sir, in the case of acute intermittent porphyria, there is a poor penetrance. So it's not necessary that every generation will have a patient of this disease.
डॉक्टर देखा है क्या?
I would also like to say that according to the longitudinal study of Porphyrias Consortium, it's a study conducted by RDCRN, started in 2010. There are only 204 cases total reported, out of which only 15 cases are pediatric and 2 are the only girl cases reported. So it makes this case a very rare case, and that's why it was difficult to diagnose. And this is about the review of literature. In Rajasthan, in Bikaner site, it's very common in Bikaner zone in Rajasthan, porphyrias, mostly found in Maheshwari and Kumar communities. Now I would like to come to the take-home message. Porphyria is a rare disease in pediatric age group. Porphyria should be suspected in children presenting with unexplained abdominal pain, seizures, weakness. A simple bedside clinical test can help to clinch rare disorder and their proper management. And timely diagnosis and management is important for better quality of life of the patient. The treating doctor should give a list of all safe and unsafe drugs to the patient. The patient can carry a list in the form of a bracelet. She can wear a bracelet telling that she is a patient of this disease. And registry of the rare disease should be done. We have the rare disease crowdfunding portal of Government of Rajasthan. We'll register a patient once the genetic reports confirm the diagnosis. Now I would like to call upon stage Dr. Ashok, sir.
Before Dr. Ashok Gupta comes, I will request the review committee who is getting this preparation done for CCR. They should do little more work. This was not a proper presentation.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, sir, for giving Department of Pediatrics an opportunity to be here. Dr. Swankar, sir, Dr. Gulati, sir, Dr. G.N. Saxena, Kapoor, sir, Sudhir Sachdev, and all my colleagues here in the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, as well as the students. Well, I just wanted to give you a brief on the Department of Pediatrics, since I've joined the institution, and because what we've always been talking of needing to reshape the healthcare in pediatrics. And if you look at any system which brings about healthcare change, you look for innovations, you look for diagnostic precision, and you also look for personalized treatment. So these were the focus when I really thought of getting into working in the field in this department here. And I'll begin with the diagnostic precision, and what Dr. Kapoor really made a fantastic comment. Because diagnostic precision, as science has advanced, we've been talking of biomarkers and new things. But what I have decided to focus more on history, physical examination, and clinical presentation. And that's exactly, the message was very loud and clear from this August group, that the focus needs to be reshaped and redone. And I'll just give you a very interesting example. at the Mahatma Gandhi Children's Hospital, we had a patient, 18-month-old baby. This baby was brought with a history of lump in the abdomen, because it was a palpable lump, and an ultrasound diagnosis of Wilms tumor. Now, for any physician, the first thing that you do is, once you have a clear-cut diagnosis, you would refer the patient to a pediatric surgeon or an oncologist, because Wilms tumor, why should I put my hand on? But interestingly, because the focus now has moved on to clinical examination, my resident said, "Sir, I have a doubt on the diagnosis." I said, "Why?" Because at the age of 1.5 years, if a child comes to you with lump abdomen, with thrombocytopenia, with ecchymotic patches on the eyelids, there seems to be metastasis, which does not happen in Wilms tumor so early, because metastasis does happen. And we said, okay, let's go in for a CT scan, because ultrasound is again dependent on the person who does it. And so when we did the CT scan again reported Wilms tumor. So the issue was very clear. It's Wilms tumor, why do we need to move further? But my residents were still not convinced. And they said, let's go in for assessing the catecholamine level, do a VMA. So we sent a VMA, vanillin mandelic acid assessment. So we did that VMA. We also ordered for a PAT scan. So that's exactly what I wanted to highlight. Yes, that these investigations, whether you do an imaging, there are many possibilities of not getting the right diagnosis with the costly investigations. So when we did that VMA turned out to be positive, and the child was given the right diagnosis. This is a case of neuroblastoma and has been put on therapy. So the focus is now moving in terms of developing a diagnostic precision based out of clinical skills. And that's exactly what is being reflected by the senior people here, who are unbelievably exceptional. We also are focusing on personalized treatment. And it's not only machine learning or artificial intelligence. We had again a very interesting case. This child was a preterm baby, was in a hospital, and was on ventilator for almost 40 days. Was subsequently discharged at day 56 of life, was still on oxygen support, because the child developed bronchopulmonary dysplasia with pulmonary hypertension. The child was brought to our hospital, and we started thinking what can be done. And that's where the focus now has moved on to read more, learn more, and update yourselves. And that's where we picked up Bosentan as a treatment plan for the patient. And in 3 days, the child who was discharged from a hospital after 56 days on oxygen was off oxygen, and the family and parents were really happy. So that's the kind of change that we're introducing in terms of doing an updated management. The Mahatma Gandhi Children's Hospital, again, because it's not primarily here, so the visibility tends to be less, except for people who really are aware of that. So since October, that's the 4 months, we have had the OPD of almost 3,500 patients. And these are paid patients. And that's why it's more important, because in this era, where insurance has taken up, the people are being insured by Chiranjeevi and other schemes. We will very rarely find people wanting to pay out of their pocket. And so it speaks high about Mahatma Gandhi, that we have almost 3,500 people who have come to have their children treated there, and our IPD is almost 230. And very interestingly, our patient spread is both for general ward to ICUs to private wards. So we are trying to represent the whole spectrum of the society coming to the hospital. We were given a push by our Vice Chancellor that academics is really not doing well. And I agreed with that, and I totally agree with our show was not really good today. And so we have moved on to...
It was not reflected on you, it was reflected. My concern was that review committee is not the fault of the children who have presented. This is the way we know how to present a case, how to approach a patient, history, standard thing, then physical examination, and then you come out with the possible or provisional diagnosis. Then you order the normal investigation. Then you suspect something. Then you order for the radiologic or ultrasound investigation. So that sort of pattern, and what Dr. Saxena has said, that you should classify your probable diagnosis on the basis of either etiology or from the anatomical point of view or from functional and anatomical point of view. So that was not there with these. So my comment with due respect was for the review committee, not for...
No, sir, I totally agree. No, because it's always a good learning time, and any comment is taken in a healthy spirit. That improvement is really the need of the hour, and we should be doing that. So anyway, after the sir's comment that the academics is not doing as good as it should have, so we have started the academics of rare disease. We do a pediatric clinics of rare disease every week, and where we are only presenting patients or children who are diagnosed in Mahatma Gandhi. And sir, it's a national telecast. So this is a web series which is going across the country, and we are getting responses from all over. And you'll be surprised that very recently on 1st February, our own faculty Weber was in Delhi, and he met VK Paul, I think he's with the National Medical Commission. Niti Aayog, yeah. So, and he showed a lot of interest in our rare disease program, and he said, I'll be willing to visit Mahatma Gandhi for that. Then we also started the academics of pediatric postgraduates, because again the PG students need to perform well when we get the external examiners coming here, and they should speak very high of our institution, and that's where we have decided to have an online presentation, and we did the first of this month. So every month we are going to do one of these online presentations where because of the time differences and the occupation differences, people get busy. So it attracted 25 people to comment on the case, and so the students are getting updated and improving their skills. I think these changes will create an impact over the next 3 to 4 months. Just to let the body know that at Mahatma Gandhi University of Medical Science and Technology, we are now a leader in rare disease in the country. We have identified 41 cases who are ultra rare. Ultra rare is a figure which is reserved for not more than 2 cases per 1 lakh population. Whereas rare disease is 1 in 2,000, it is 1 in 50,000. So these are ultra rare patients that we have diagnosed here at Mahatma Gandhi, and we have got the focus from all over the country in the field of rare diseases. And these cases, 2 of them are probably one of the first few in the country. One is a girl child with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, because DMD is a X-linked recessive disorder. The girls will always be carriers; they cannot have disease. And this was a very, very interesting case where we had a girl child who came as DMD. I couldn't believe it. I put the first diagnosis as limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, because it cannot be DMD, I thought. But as we investigated, it turned out to be DMD. So the reported incidence is 1 in 5 crore. Gaucher's and Tay-Sachs. Gaucher is a lysosomal storage disorder where you have organomegaly, whereas in Tay-Sachs you will have more of neurological manifestations, and Gaucher's will have infantile onset versus juvenile versus late onset. Only the infantile is the neuropathic variety, otherwise most of them are non-neuropathy. Whereas Tay-Sachs will have predominantly neurological manifestations and retinal change, which is characteristic of cherry red spot. So, and there's another, this hemoglobin Calgary is again one of the rarest in the world, where you have beta thalassemia with low fetal hemoglobin, because beta thalassemia is always diagnosed based out of high fetal hemoglobin. Here you have a child who comes to you as beta thalassemia, has low fetal hemoglobin. So it was very, very difficult case to diagnose, but how we have given the diagnosis, and we are trying to work on.
Calgary Eye Hospital. I'm giving a lot of hints. Calgary is in the Canada, and Jaipur and Calgary are the twin cities. And if the hemoglobin might have been discovered in Calgary, in Canada, that is why you mentioned Calgary.
There is Calgary Hospital in Malviya Nagar, Eye Hospital, and it was शायद नेहरू जी या इंदिरा गांधी जी आई थी long back. This was declared as a twin city. इंदिरा गांधी के टाइम में declared as a twin city, और पूरा वहाँ से फंड्स आए और शुरू में कैलगरी हॉस्पिटल बहुत अच्छा चलता था. आई रिमेम्बर माई स्टूडेंट डेज टाइम. सो just to update or just to give the brief idea about the Calgary.
And then, sir, we have had just yesterday the first electrocorticography epilepsy surgery for a child for difficult to treat epilepsy, coordinated by Dr. Ajay Goenka. He is the pediatric neurologist here. So, and so this is a rare thing because this is for the first time in the state of Rajasthan such a surgery has been done, and and this is part of the Chiranjeevi, which is absolutely free of cost. So Mahatma Gandhi is the first institution in the state which has done this surgery, and that too free of cost. So, and just to show you some of the pictures of the children's heart, the MGCH, because slightly far away from this place. So, thank you, sir.